Today's topic is lifting fingerprint from surfaces. Lifting fingerprint from surfaces. Lifting fingerprint in an image of impression of the unique patterns left behind by someone's fingerprint. To lift fingerprint from surfaces, various techniques are used, and the technique that is going to be used will be determined by the type of surface. Maybe it is porous, non-porous. Then it is also going to be determined by whether it is a visible fingerprint or non-visible. If this is non-visible, we call it latent. So whether it is latent or visible, or whether the surface is porous or non-porous, all this will determine the type of text. So let us consider if the fingerprint is visible. Now I'm going to shade my screen so that you can see what I want to. You can see the board together. Now, lifting visible fingerprint. Lifting visible fingerprint. Since it is visible, a camera can be used to have the image first. You snap it, get the record of it, then a lifting fingerprint. A lifting tape will be then used to take it away from the surface, to lift it up from the surface. Let me demonstrate this one before we move further. Look at the screen. You can see a fingerprint that is visible. So all we need to do is to use lifting tape. Place it on top of it like this. You start from a side and you make sure that there's no hole, no bubble. No bubble is trapped. You remove it, then you place it at the back of a backing card. You place it at the back of a backing card, and you make sure you use white backing card. White backing card. Look at it. You place it at the back after using the tape, the lifting tape to lift it from the surface. Then you place it at the back of a backing card. The backing card will have some information like the case number, the incident, the evidence, location where it is taken, name of the victim, name of investigator, signature and date. So you fill everything like this. Then you keep it, drop inside the evidence bag. You seal the mouth, then you send it to the lab for the fingerprint examiner to do his work on it. So that is how to lift visible fingerprint from the surface. Now, if it is not visible, that is, if it is latent fingerprint, which means we can't see it, this type of fingerprint is left behind by oils, the amino acid, sweat, and all other organic residue in the fingers, maybe the finger tip or any part of the finger. So now to make this visible, we need to do some things. We need to use some technique, and this technique can be generally categorized to three. There's the first one is called dusting, the second one is chemical method, the first one is dusting method, then we have a chemical method, then we have alternative light source method. Now in the dusting method, we use various form of dusting powders. Dusting for fingerprint is the method of looking for fingerprint on surfaces using powder that can adhere to the lines, that is the ridges, formed from the finger impression. There are different types of fingerprint powder, as we are going to be discussing them one after the other. Before I move further, I need to tell you some things. There are some of the things that you need when you want to lift fingerprint from crime scene. Your hand glove must be in your hand intact, so that you will not lift your own fingerprint or contaminate the evidence with your own fingerprint. At the same time, your DNA will not be contaminating the evidence. Then another thing that you need is to protect your nostril and your mouth, your nose and your mouth, so that your DNA will not be dropped or be left at the crime scene or on the object that you are processing. So that it won't be left at the crime scene that you are processing, because through your saliva, your DNA may touch any of the objects at the crime scene. Also, your nostril, through your nostril, your DNA also can contaminate the evidence. So you need to protect yourself from contaminating the evidence. At the same time, you may still need to go to another crime scene. So if care is not taken, if you didn't protect yourself, it means that it is possible for you to take a piece of evidence, maybe biological evidence like DNA, from a crime scene and go to contaminate another crime scene, and that one will lead to wrong result after the investigation. Let's move further. I said we have different dusting powders. We have black dusting powder. We have a white powder, and then black powder. Let's discuss the black powder first, so that today we'll discuss we'll continue tomorrow. Then before we leave, we go into a little practical. Black powder, this is typically used on porous or non-porous surfaces. Non-porous surfaces like the wall, a cemented wall, a painted wall, the surface of a tile, or surface of a table, and so on and so forth. So this is used because those surfaces are different from porous surfaces like paper, like clothing, and so on and so forth. So the kind of surface, the type of surface will determine the type of powder that's supposed to use. For example, the black powder must be used on light color surface or white surface. either white or light color surface, so that so as to give a kind of contrast that will allow the line, the ridges, to be seen clearly. And when you are using backing card, the best thing is to use white backing card, because you are using black powder. So black powder over white backing card will enable you to see the lines, the ridges very well. But if it is otherwise, if it is white surface, I mean if you are using white powder, that means that surface must be a black surface, and in that case, because you are using white powder, then you must use a dark or black, a dark backing powder, so that it can form a kind of contrast that will make the ridges or the lines make it visible for you to see. Now let's check what you have on the board and practicalize what we are discussing. Now look at this screen. This is the porous surface. This is a tile surface. So the tile has its porous surface. So what we need now is to bring out the black powder, black dusting powder. You just take little. You just take little from it, little, with our brush. It's a special brush made for this purpose. So it's not just, you can't just use any brush. So the powder is on it. The powder also is specially made for the purpose. So we look for it. We have flattened fingerprint on the surface. Now we want to determine where we can see it. So what we do is that we scroll our fingerprint brush like this. You don't wipe it. Don't wipe it, because if you wipe it, you may spoil the print. So can you see? Look at the fingerprint, the print that we are able to get. This is a print. This is a print. This is another print. This is another print here. Let me use something to point to it. This is a print that is visible. This is another print that is visible. That's another print. This another one here. Look at some of them. So we are lifting this one. Let's leave this one for demonstration purpose. So all we need to do is to start from a side, cover the whole thing, the whole print from a side, and make sure it covers the whole thing like this. You press it so that no bubble will be trapped inside. If bubble is trapped inside, it means that you will not have a good print. So you lift it from the same other side, then you place it at the back of the card. So you place it at the back of the card, and you have all these things in front. You fill all this information, then you put it inside the evidence bag, then you seal it, fill all the information here to maintain the chain of custody. Then you take it to the fingerprint examiner that will work on it. We compare it with the one they have collected. Now, if there are some criteria or some factors, there are some factors that need to be considered anytime we want to choose a fingerprint powder. There are some factors that need to be considered. Number one, adhesion. The powder must display the right level of adhesion. Adhesion is how that powder will stick to these lines, the ridges, and will not stick to the surrounding area, just the lines, the ridges, so that when we are lifting it, it's only the ridges that we need, the impression that is needed. So adhesion is very, very important. The powder must display the right level of adhesion so that it will adhere to the residue of the fingerprint, especially the oils, and not adhere to the rest of the surface, where it will obscure the view of the print. So it's not every powder, it's not every things that are not made, powder that are not made for the purpose that can work like that. So you make sure that the powder can adhere to the oil, the substance from the sweat that made up the print, and not to the rest of the surface. Then another thing you consider is the color. Before you use powder on any surface, you must know the type of color. That means if you are going to a crime scene, the best is to have at least two types of color. Fingerprint with two types of color. Like you must have like a black powder and a white powder, or black powder and some other powder that is not meant for white surface. There are some other color with powder with a yellow color and so on and so forth like that. But the one that is meant for black surface or dark surface, and the one that is meant for light color surface or white surface, both of them must be in your custody so that you can use either of the two. Or at times the crime scene may have different objects, so those objects that you want to process fingerprint from may be of different color. And also another thing you consider is sensitivity. Sensitivity is how well the powder adhere to a surface. There are some powder that will adhere very well to porous surface, and some will adhere well to non-porous surface. Then another thing you consider is fineness. The powder must be fine enough to show details of the fingerprint. Fine powders will be capable of displaying greater detail than coarse powders. If the powder is not fine enough, it will not show enough detail. In fact, there are some of the lines that will be broken, and that one may confuse you. Where you don't have short ridge, like when you don't have a short ridge, it may appear that you have a short ridge if the powder is too coarse, and it will not allow you to see a straight, continuous line. Then another thing is flow. It is important that the powder can flow easily and does not form into a solid black. If it, solid block, that is like if you remember or if you are in part of the world where they still use lantern, the black soot from lantern is always solid block, so it may not be suitable. Such kind of powder may not be suitable for some surfaces because it will not flow easily and will make the whole thing to mess up. This is where we are going to stop today. So next week, next class we are going to go further in discussing about other type of finger, how to lift fingerprint from surfaces. Thank you. God bless you. Till Wednesday.